Hey everyone, Dan here. We are during Power Hour on Wednesday, June 23rd. Today we're going to take a look at GHVI. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also feel free to comment below with your own thoughts, ideas, opinions, what have you. Those are always really helpful and interesting to read. And lastly, if you want to share these videos, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, any of those things are appreciated. Okay, so GHVI is a SPAC, and this SPAC is supposed to be merging with Matterport. Matterport is, they describe themselves as the leading spatial data company driving the digital transformation of the built world. You can look on their website to get more info exactly on what they do. But, this came out at the end of May announcing their most recent quarterly financials, and it was looks like generally good news. Total revenue up 108% year over year. Subscriber revenue up 84%. ARR over 55 million at this point. Subscribers grew 531%. So all really good indications, especially for a company that's, set to merge soon. It looked like when the announcement or the target was first named that they were gunning for sometime in Q2 2021. But this press release that Matterport put out says, I lost my highlight here, but it says right here, we have also made excellent progress in our proposed merger and the closing on track for early in the third quarter. Okay, so this means we're probably looking at something like July or August for this merger to actually happen. So, we'll see when that happens, but it looks like it's going to spur a pretty big bulk of interest and probably a bunch of pre-merger hype and anticipation running up the price. So I thought that it was an interesting time to look at this, knowing that we have a little bit of space before that news hits of the exact date when the switchover will occur, but it's coming up soon. So let's take a look at the chart and see what we might be able to look for as this kind of rolls out. So this is the 3-month, 2-hour chart to just kind of get our bearings. And, today it's relatively flat, but this is often what you expect after, these big run-ups. With these SPACs, we often see, sort of just level price action for quite a while. And then when a target is named, there's a big spike. And then when, the date seems to be getting closer, then we see more big spikes. And then depending on the company, it could sell off quite a bit or continue to rise quite a bit. It seems to me that the sentiment around Matterport as a company is very, very strong, and that folks are very, very excited that is the company that's going to be coming to market. It's seen as a very, very strong company. But you see this huge run up here, and then almost complete retracement on the selling off. And then, it dipped close to that $10 level down here. And it has been on a nice rise ever since. So what we should be looking at price point wise in the coming days and weeks, let's plot out some levels. Okay, so we're going to grab these levels. If you haven't seen my videos before, we're going to look for areas where there's previous support and resistance. So that's why we always look backwards in the price. Areas that have both support and resistance in its history are very, very strong zones. So they offer really good support if that price is underneath the current price, and offer resistance on the upside. But I'll talk on the upside potential in a minute, because it does give us really good buying opportunities when it does hit resistance to the upside. That 14.95 I'd say is probably the most the soonest area of support, most close to the current price action. My brain's a little slow today, so we'll do our best. But just know that. It is also sort of in this channel, this slightly upward channel, and it's a pretty, it's not a super aggressive channel. It's a pretty reasonable channel. Sometimes we see these channels, if you had drawn a channel up here, that would be an insane thing to do because the price isn't going to hold that channel. But this one, it's pretty well. It fell out here, but it's been doing pretty well for quite some time. I mean, even if you include this, but I probably wouldn't because it only tested the bottom and didn't even test the top at that point. But here we have, it came into the channel, tested the top, tested the bottom, tested the top again, test the bottom again. So we have like 2, 3, 4 tests of both the top and the bottom. So to me, it's a pretty legit channel. And it would have gone in here at about May 21st. So I would look to play the channel as this thing approaches the merger date, because if we're anticipating that that's going to bring a lot of hype and a lot of pumping in the price action, then it's a good time now to potentially look for good dip buy opportunities if that is your sort of like bullish scenario. And so the way that I like to play the channels is I look for the price to come down toward the bottom, assuming that it will hold the channel and bounce, look for signs of price strength at the bottom, and then take my dip buy there. And normally what I would do in a channel is then let it run up to the top of the channel and take profit. Rinse and repeat. So, we buy it down here in mid 13s, sell it up here at 16, take another dip buy at low 14s, and then sell it again mid 16s, something like that. But because this is a SPAC and the pre-merger hype is going to be at a pretty fevered pitch probably in the very near future, personally, what I would look to be doing at this point is just looking for good dip buy entry points. And, depending on the strength of the dip buy, meaning if it's at the bottom of a channel, I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable than if it just was dipping into one of these resistance zones on the upside. I would probably take a larger position to start and then either slightly average down if I needed to, or, if it hits something like a stop loss, sell out and look for a better entry point as it sort of starts to recover. But that's what I'm going to be looking for. And to the upside, let's look at another bit of a zone here, because there's a really good one here. And then we can talk about how you could dip buy into these resistance zones as the price starts to climb, and you want to sort of not go chasing the stock. That's always a dangerous thing. I still have a bad habit of doing that, or just taking positions because I have to leave the house. And so I will take a position prematurely just because I need to step away from my computer. It's just not a good habit to get into. So, but let's zoom out a little bit here and I'll show you how you could dip buy into these price zones. So we'll be looking for the price to come up and rise into these, resistance zones and turn them to support. And so on that sort of theory, what you can do is, if you're trying to catch a good entry point in this as it's rising, and say it comes up and it tries to hit that 1791, but it falls short, peters out around the mid 17s. You'd be looking for it to come back down into the first line of support below that, knowing that those are strong support zones that you've charted, and you could start to average in, a bit away from that. What I like to do is look at 1642, and then I go to my indicators and look at the current ATR, 31 cents. So I would add 31 cents to 1642. That gets us to what? 1673. And so I would set a limit buy at 16, 75, 74, something like that, knowing that that is now entering my dip buy zone or my proposed bounce zone where I think it's likely to bounce, catch support. And then I would set a stop loss, at whatever lower price point I wanted, 1 ATR below that price point. So I would subtract 31 cents from it and set the stop loss there. So that could be, $14.95 minus 31 cents, $15.43, what have you. And so you can use these upper price targets not necessarily as take profit zones, though you could do that, but you could use them as, okay, I'm trying to not chase it because I know that that's a bad habit and it's not very rigorous or, oh my God, my slow brain, or I don't know, I can't think of the word right now, but, that gives you a sort of a method by which you take your entry points and discipline. That's the word I was trying to think of. Gives you a disciplined approach to how you take entry points at a stock that is rising, because nothing rises forever. Everything pulls back at some point. The degree to which it pulls back is always the question, right? Is this the right point to buy it? Is it going to fall a lot more, especially on these stocks where you've seen things happen where like it starts to run up and then it loses all of the gains, and then it loses more of the gains. Or here when there's this giant rise up and then it loses almost all of the gains. So if you had just continued to hold through that, or if you had chased it up toward the top and then it very quickly turns around on you and never really recovers, that's a pretty sad state to be in. So these disciplined approaches definitely help a lot, but this is what I would play price target wise on GHVI. On the indicator side of things, most of this is going to be dependent on just the hype for the run up for when the merger is getting closer. So I would take the rest of this just with a grain of salt in terms of the indicators. The charting piece, I think, is still very valid for taking entry points or whatever it is that you're trying to do with your holdings or your not holdings as that run up occurs or kicks off. But the RSI relatively high, especially after having a bit of a red day here, so it's kind of uncommon. But this is also the 4-hour chart, so it's sort of still hanging up high here from all of this big run up here that we saw. On the MACD side of things, bullish, but could be dying down a little bit. Could be sort of turning over a smidge. Yeah, smidge, flattening out a little bit. Sort of connecting a little bit closer toward the signal line, but definitely still has some distance, so could start to put together an additional run based on the MACD. It's also right around the baseline, so there's plenty of room to run if it wants to. All right, well, that will do it for this one. Good luck if you're in GHVI. I will do my best to keep you all updated, and I myself am going to be looking for a position because I do think there's lots of hype, a lot of interest in Matterport, and they seem to be doing a good job with their business. So I'm sure there are things to dislike about it, but right now it seems pretty positive. All right, well, I appreciate you all watching, and I will see you in the next video.